Mi gente, bienvenidos de vuelta a East Boston Zoom. Espero hayan tenido la oportunidad de ver a nuestros anunciantes. No se lo olvide, Bohemios Restaurant, con una selección de comida espectacular. Y, por supuesto, está uno de nuestros más fieles patrocinadores, Enfarrados, que siempre tiene una selección de alcohol espectacular, de cócteles, una atención maravillosa y tienen unas mejores decoraciones de Halloween. Hablando de alcohol, déjeme le pregunto al concejal. Councilor, I have been told that one of the projects you have for City Hall is bringing the licenses back, the liquor licenses back to the licensing board and not to the state level. Is that correct?
Correct. I worked for 4 years with two mayors, Mayor Menino and Mayor Walsh, and our state legislature to advance comprehensive liquor license reform to undo the hurt of a 100-year-old state law that I believe was really crippling economic growth and development in our neighborhoods. I'm very passionate about food and the role that it plays in community and the opportunity for upward mobility, specifically neighborhood restaurants. You know, 2 out of 4 restaurants is owned by an immigrant. 2 out of 5 people, their first job was in a restaurant. And 2 out of 4 restaurants are owned by someone that started in the front of the house or the back of the house. There's a restaurant owner, very successful, who owns 7 restaurants, who started as a dishwasher. So I very much appreciate the role that neighborhood restaurants play as social and economic anchors. And I wanted to make it easier for neighborhood restaurants to be successful. And no matter how good your food is, ultimately your profit margin will be made on your bar. And because there was a cap on liquor licenses, there was a black market created. And it was costing an upwards of $250,000 to secure a liquor license. And so what we did is, being on the city level, recognizing that we know best how to economically revitalize neighborhoods because we're closest to them, the mayor now has full authority to appoint that licensing board, which he has appointed a new one. And we have added 75 new licenses over the next 3 years. 80% of those are restricted to main streets and neighborhoods that have historically been disenfranchised and marginalized. One of those new licenses went to Maverick Market. I had an event there last Sunday celebrating our passage of this liquor license reform. We started in Hyde Park. I had an incredible time there with a young man. Well, he's still a young man, young at heart, but he's a mature man who's been running a restaurant for a number of years from the Dominican Republic. He had been applying for a license since 2009, would be approved, but couldn't get a license because none were available. And every time he went to apply, he spent $2,500, very costly. He recently was able to procure one of our licenses. His profits have increased by 35%, and he was able to change his business model. So instead of being a lounge sort of restaurant, now he's a family friendly model restaurant. And he said, you know, although you always have to work so hard in the restaurant industry, that he doesn't have to work as hard anymore because he has some peace of mind in knowing that he'll be able to compete with other restaurants now that he has a liquor license. So this is a game changer when it comes to economic development.
Did you find a lot of opposition from people saying that that would bring more people becoming drunk because there will be more licenses and there will be more bars opening?
No, that wasn't the opposition because I was never championing bars and clubs and lounges. You know, I'm specifically focused on neighborhood restaurants, and that's not about trying to convert our main streets into New Orleans Bourbon Street. It's about acknowledging that they are really critical job engines, economic engines, and social anchors. I believe in the power of food to build community. For people who were opposed, it was basically because the system had benefited a lot of people for a long time, exactly as it was. But it had created a great disparity. So you had some neighborhoods that were vibrant and had many options for sit-down restaurants, and some that had zero. And I don't think that's okay. So I wanted to ensure an equity and opportunity for every neighborhood to build community and to build wealth.
Can you tell us what a city councilor at large does? Many people here would know that you're a city councilor at large, and they know they have a city councilor for the neighborhood. But when it comes to be a city councilor at large,
Could you tell us a little bit more in detail what your job is like now that you mentioned that you have 60 to 80-hour weeks?
It's a very demanding, way of life. It's not a job. It's my life's work. But we play an important role as the legislative arm for the city. We are a strong mayor form of government, but that doesn't mean that we are lacking in influence. We have the platform of the Boston City Council to advocate, to lobby, and also you were talking about my project, when in fact it really is law change, and I worked very deliberately in building a broad and diverse coalition of people with which to make that law change happen. So we are the legislative body, so we can write ordinances, home rule petitions, which are what are needed to change state law. We can author and pass resolutions, which are a value statement from the body that we're sending to the state legislature. There really are no limitations to what a Boston City Councilor can do. I think the job is what you make it. And I've decided that it is a position where one can have a great impact, and I'd like to think that I have. And of course, the key thing that we do, other than constituent services, so if people are in need and need support or resources, they can certainly call any of our offices for help and direction. That's the most important job, is constituent services. Usually when people are calling you, you're their last resort. And so you need to be knowledgeable and resourceful and compassionate, and help those that are calling in need. And the other thing is we vote on the budget. That budget is what dictates everything else. Public education, public safety, housing, development. We are the fiscal stewards of the city of Boston. And that is a huge undertaking, but again, I'm very honored that for the last 6 years, the voters have entrusted me with that. From a civic education standpoint, I would also offer that for those that are not aware, there are 13 Boston City Councilors. 9 of them are district councilors representing clusters of neighborhoods, and then you have 4 that represent the entire city. So I'm one of the 4 that represents the entire city, which is why I'm called an at-large councilor. And on Tuesday, November 3rd, people can vote for up to 4 candidates.
You have been sometimes known as the champion for representing minorities because you represent women, you represent African American women, but also, as I mentioned at the beginning of the show, you have been on the side of Latinos when it comes to injustice with immigration. What can you tell us about what's happening nationwide with this, this anti-immigrant wave of saying that the children of immigrants should not have rights? We had a pilot program here called Secure Communities that now it's not anymore because we have the Trust Act.
Right.
And I know you were a huge advocate of that.
The Boston City Council. So
Exactly.
there, right there, is an example.
So why?
I think we've always had a moral responsibility to, as a governing body on the city level, to weigh in on these matters. But our responsibilities have become heavier because of the failures on the federal level, because we have not seen comprehensive immigration reform, and we have families that are living in the shadows, on the margins, and are hostage to this. I would liken it really to slavery, in the same way with which black families were decimated and fractured, and still digging out from 100 years of systemic and institutionalized oppression and barriers in that way. The same is true for our Latino, our immigrant brothers and sisters, and so it has not been, a heavy lift. I've been a sister in solidarity, especially because many of the challenges that face the African American and Latino community are the same when it comes to academic outcomes, when it comes to health disparities, when it comes to poverty and wealth inequality. Unfortunately, we have these challenges and these disparities in common, and the only way that we can really see these disparities addressed and ensure a greater equity and opportunity for all of us to lead productive lives, to lead safe lives, especially given all that the immigrant, the Latino community contributes to our city, to this Commonwealth, to our country, to our workforce, to our economy, you know. It's the very least that we could do. So I'll continue to be a sister in solidarity in those social justice fights.
Bueno, mi gente, ha sido un honor tener a la concejal AyannaPressley. Y no se les olvide que una de las cosas que menciona ella es: tenemos que luchar en contra de la opresión. La opresión que sufrió el pueblo afroamericano en los Estados Unidos es la opresión que de un modo u otro sigue sufriendo y ahora sufre el pueblo latino. Es tiempo de organizarnos, es tiempo de votar y es tiempo de tener oficiales electos que abren nuestro idioma y que sean capaces de defender nuestros intereses como latinos. Con esto, los invito a que en la oficina de la concejala AyannaPressley hay un caballero que se llama Sam Miller, que es el representante por parte de la oficina de la concejal en East Boston. Así que usted tiene que, si tiene que buscar a la concejal, ella está en la alcaldía y le vamos a preguntar cómo se pueden conectar con ella. So, Councilor,
Yes.
it has been a pleasure having you at East Boston soon.
Oh, it's been all mine. Thank you.
It is always a pleasure seeing you. It is always a pleasure to see an African-American woman who can show the talent that there is in the African-American communities, because we as Latinos and African-Americans are underrepresented at the political level. But I would like for you to invite
We should talk about that sometime.
We should talk about that
I
sometime.
wanna
That's
talk
correct.
about that.
That will be another show.
Okay.
If you could invite your constituents who are watching this TV show to see how they can reach out to you.
Yes. My name is AyannaPressley. For the last 6 years, I've had the honor of serving as one of your 4 citywide city councilors. I represent the entire city of Boston, proudly so. If you are ever in need of resources, assistance, support, please don't hesitate to reach out to my Boston City Hall office. And that number is 617-635-4217. 617-635-4217. I'm also very active on social media, so you should feel free to contact me on Facebook or Twitter if you want to invite me to an event. If we don't know about it, we can't be there. I love serving on the municipal level and having the opportunity to meet the people that I proudly represent and serve, and so I hope to see you soon. Okay, very good.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Bueno, mi gente, ha sido un honor entrevistar a AyannaPressley. Como ya saben, es importante que usted vote, que sea parte del sistema de votación, que sea parte del cambio democrático. El proceso democrático requiere de su voto y por eso los latinos necesitan buscar representación. Los espero una vez más el próximo viernes a las 6 de la tarde aquí por Cuencavisión en Comcast. Y recuerde, puede comunicarse a este email que aparece en pantalla o me puede llamar al 857-453-0533. Una vez más, este fue Antoine Castro del Río. Muchas gracias.